How's it going, folks? It's Janek Gwizdala. It's the Janek Gwizdala podcast. Figured I would start, for a change, with a little bit of music. That is, at the end of the day, why I hope most of us are here, even if we talk about many other facets of what we do as musicians. I've been getting used to the new board build that you may have seen over the past weeks, the stereo board, and there are plenty of crazy things on it. But it's nice to remember the really simple parts and just the natural sound of the bass and the looper and a beautiful stereo reverb. So I've been working on that a little bit in the cracks. The few moments I've had to myself have been spent with that. And also it's been therapeutic as the title, the thumbnail, just your introduction to this episode of the podcast would hint at. I was robbed recently right off the porch of my house in broad daylight, 2:00 in the afternoon. I probably should have queued up the video to maybe share with you. And if it doesn't put me off too much while I'm talking about it, I'll scroll down through the activity calendar here on the phone with the door cam. I'm sure people are aware of these things. Oh, of course, my history doesn't seem to go back far enough for the actual incident itself. That's strange. I thought I had 30-day history on here. Anyway, long story long, what happened? What was it? Monday? What are we today? We're Saturday. It was Monday. I had, as I often do now, because we sell the books from the website and I do signed copies, I had a big shipment of the bassist book of scales and arpeggios and the bass player's guide to pentatonics. Had them arriving via Amazon, as they always do. They get delivered UPS, FedEx, USPS, you name it, all kinds of carriers. They drop them right at the front door. I was down here in my studio working on an edit for a video. I saw the door camera go off. I was like, oh great, their books have arrived. I've got customers waiting for them to go out to, and I just want to be restocked on our most popular books. Of course, Bass Player's Guide to Pentatonics and Scales and Arpeggios are currently out, by far our two most popular books. I'm constantly ordering them, and I was like, okay, I'm going to start pulling the trigger on bigger numbers each time I order them. Let's not do small batches, all the time, but let's do maybe once a month we order a big box of them, because they seem to be selling, and I'd like to always have them in stock. So I went for it, pulled the trigger on a massive box of books. And then some idiot decided to roll by the house not 4 minutes after Amazon had dropped them off. Like I said, I was literally here, saw the door camera go. I was like, let me finish this edit. I'll go upstairs and grab them. And before I could do that, the door cam went again. And there was a rather large, tattooed, bejeweled individual standing or running towards my porch, grabbing this massive box of books, and then jumping in a car and being driven away. So a 2-person crew for this. And so it transpires that they basically followed the Amazon delivery van all the way around my neighborhood, waited until the van took off, decided who they were going to hit over, do over, big boxes, things that look like they could be expensive. And they got me, amongst other people, I find out, because I went tearing upstairs. Unfortunately, I didn't see which way the car went first, which was a drag, because maybe I could have got after them. In hindsight, probably not a good idea. This being where it is, you never know who maybe has a weapon of some sort, and you could be on the wrong side of that. Wouldn't be a lot of fun. So yeah, in hindsight, probably good that they were not around and I didn't get to catch up with them. But I did kind of, buzz around the neighborhood quickly to see what was going on, and see if I could see the books, see if they'd shown up anywhere, or if they'd just ditched them. I figured, like, man, they're going to open this box, see Bass Player's Guide to Pentatonics or Scales and Arpeggios, and be like, oh man, we thought this was like a new MacBook Pro or something, or whatever, just a ton of valuable stuff. And then they would just ditch it by the side of the road. So I tear around the neighborhood, and I'm just seeing carnage everywhere. I'm seeing Amazon boxes and packaging and envelopes just torn apart. And I think they were just driving around the neighborhood, someone in the car taking all the goods out and tossing the packaging into the street. And eventually I see this box. I'm like, man, that box looks kind of big enough to be the one that was stolen from my place. And lo and behold, I pull over, I stop, and there it is. And I'm like, oh man, I've got my books back. For sure, they've tossed the box and the books. Nope. They've opened the box. They've gone, pentatonics and scales and arpeggios, score. And they've taken the books and tossed the box. So who knows what on earth they think they're going to do with those books. Real drag. And it's a drag not only because, so it costs me some money. It's not an insignificant amount of money. It's a few $100 of stock. Of course, it would be a bunch of scales and arpeggios books, which is the most expensive one to get printed. That's just kind of typical when something like that happens. But it was just the inconvenience of it, because they do take a few weeks to get back in stock. So it sort of knocked me back a few weeks in terms of the smooth running of the operation here, and was just a drag. It really affected me in a way I didn't think it would. I thought I'd be able to brush it off and be like, oh, well, that sucks. But it's actually the second time it's happened. It wasn't to books the first time. It was to I think it was my supplements delivery or something stupid. Something, again, really inconvenient, something that takes a while to ship over. It's not like it was shampoo that I could order again, or a toothbrush that I could just run to Ralph's and get. It was something really kind of a pain in the ass. And I don't know why it got. I think it was maybe the last straw, because a bunch of other things in the background here have been not great the past few weeks. And I think that was just the last thing. It was like, hey man, can I get a break? It'd be really nice for this stuff not to be happening. So yeah, a real drag. Oh, here's the photo. I'm going to hold this up to the camera. I don't think I can download these bad boys, but here's the photo of said moron. Is it going to focus on that? Yeah, you can kind of see this dude. I think the phone has got that filter on because it's late at night, right? So let me take that off the night shift and see if you get a better look at it if you're watching on YouTube. There he is, full, no face mask, no nothing. There's this big box down here that it caught him. I've only got the still, so it caught him running towards the door cam. He's going to grab the box and then run over here where a car is waiting for him out on the street and just take off with all this stuff. And just no shame, just like they don't care. They see the door cam and run straight to it. Just unbelievable. Really. I was like, what the hell are you thinking? Like, obviously they're not. They don't care. I think that's the worst part of it. And apparently I don't have the video, at least not in the phone. Maybe that's stored online somewhere. I know I do have like a 30-day backup. Needless to say, the books are gone, and it was a real drag. And I thought that I would share that with you guys. I hope that anyone who ordered Pentatonics in the last week hears this. We obviously will send emails out from the website if shipping is delayed, but just know that I reordered immediately. We have more stock coming in, and we'll push past this. I got the cops out, and he was like, man, if you have something over $100 in value coming to the house from Amazon, and you don't want to be a target, like maybe have it delivered to a post office or to an Amazon locker or something like that. So I guess that's what I'm going to be doing from now on. I'm going to be Amazon lockering the deliveries of books. Kind of a pain because it's another step. I got to go out and pick them up then somewhere. Who knows? I don't even know where there's an Amazon locker near me. Probably not that far, but still. If anyone out there is having stuff delivered to their house via Amazon, be aware, because I'm pretty sure I'm not the only person, definitely not the first person, won't be the last. And the advice from the cops about having the stuff of any value or significance or importance, or even like timely stuff that is difficult to rebuy immediately, have it delivered to an Amazon locker. Sad state of affairs. But yeah, let's move on. Let's move on to happier things. Let's talk about what we're going to talk about next. There's so many things. I got some merch. Finally got some merch. Time and sound merch. I bought a bunch of it for myself. I got some samples because I was like, okay, I'm going to try and do merch again. I haven't done it for many years. I've always had this thing I wanted to have time and sound as it's always been my kind of mantra. That's what I talk about the most. That's what I think is most important about music. Everything is linked below, by the way. It's in the store. It's live now. There are water bottles and notebooks and clothing and all kinds of stuff. We were figuring I wanted to wear the stuff. This is super comfortable. The hoodie is super comfortable. I will give you a word of advice. If you do want a super comfy hoodie, get a size bigger than you normally do. I ordered one. If you were at the NAMM show this week, you will have seen me wearing it a couple of days ago. It was a dark gray one with white lettering with a white logo, and it was a large, and it was a little too snug for me. It was fine. It fit and everything. It wasn't tight. It wasn't restricted, but I like the bagginess. And this is an XL. I'll say I'm 6 foot even and about $180, 180 pounds. I don't know what that is in metric. I think it's 183 centimeters and 180. Well, I'll look it up for you right now. Why not? 180 pounds in kilograms is 81.64. So just so you know, I'm that height and weight, and the XL feels good on me. There is a disclaimer on the site. They say, hey, our hoodies kind of wear a bit small, get a size bigger. And the XL is super comfortable. I've been practicing with it. It's a little bit cold here, actually. We are technically in winter, even though the whole state's on fire right now. And it is getting down to sort of like 43, 44 degrees at night here. It is the desert after all. So it's been nice. It's been nice and comfy, snuggling with the kiddo, practicing. What else did I get? There are some t-shirts, white logo. The t-shirts are super comfortable. I like I said, I've been working on it for a couple of weeks, and I ordered a bunch of stuff off the site just to test it before. I was like, hey, you should go and buy this because it's good quality. And it is. I got a long sleeve shirt, gray one with a white logo here, and that's a totally long sleeve. There's like baseball tees. There's a super expensive Adidas kind of quarter zip thing, which I really dig. I'm going to get one for myself just because I like that apparel, and it would be cool to have my own logo on it. But beware, they're not cheap at all. I'm making almost no margin on that for me at all. I just thought it was a cool thing to have for those who are into that type of shit. Anyway, that's the merch. It's all linked below. It's all available below. Now we have our store linked with YouTube, which is really cool. So you should be seeing all of that below the video if you're watching and listening on YouTube. Super fun, happy news coming up. It's Saturday night here, and in just a few days, I'm going to take off and go to Boston for the day and hang with Senor Patitucci, my good friend and hero, of course, like many of us, not just in the world of bass, but in the world of music and jazz and composition and arrangement and everything we love and aspire to, I'm sure, on a lot of levels for a lot of people listening. I'm going to sit down with him and interview him because he has a new album coming out in just a couple of weeks. and managed to snag him for a couple of hours, and we're going to talk about that music and do a full interview and film it, and it's going to be on the channel very soon, right around the launch of his new album. There are a couple of singles that he's put out that are on. I've been listening on Spotify, for instance. I'll link those in the description of this video for you to check out. You can get a feel for what he's doing. It's a trio album with Brian Blade and Chris Potter, and he's playing a lot of electric bass on there, which is, I of course love his upright playing, but I'm kind of intrigued about where his electric playing is going, because I saw him play in LA a few months ago, and we talked the next day for quite a bit on the phone, and he was just almost like giddy and excited about where his electric playing was going, which at the age, I believe he just turned 65. This is really something I aspire to be. In 20 years' time, I want to have that much curiosity still about something that I've been doing already for so long. So it was really interesting to have that conversation with him on the phone. I said, hey man, you want to sit down and like share this with the rest of the world and let's talk about it? He's like, man, let's do it. And schedules being what they are, I got to head to Boston because he's up there teaching at Berkeley, and we managed to figure it out. So if you have some questions for John, I'll try and get a couple of audience questions into the interview. Leave them in the description of the video below. I will go through them. I'm sure there are going to be doubles and people wanting to know the same thing. So maybe some of the more popular ones will get into the interview. If you've got a super weird angle, interesting one, even better. But get in the comments below. Let me know. And I will try and get your questions to John. I've been wanting to do this for so long, and really very, very fortunate that the time has finally come. And I have the next 2 days or so to prepare and get in good interviewing shape. It's been a minute. I think Tim Landers was the last one, and that's already like 6 months ago. So I've got to get that side of my brain clicking and working. As well as all the technical setup and the cameras and the lights and all that stuff. So yeah, it's going to be an interesting little trip. Cannot wait to share that with you. Still have, I guess, it's still going on. I just bailed on the second half of it. But this week is the Winter NAMM show here in California, down in Anaheim at the Anaheim Convention Center. I was there for Thursday and Friday. And oh my goodness, so much to share and report on. I kind of wish I had the new instruments that I took delivery of, shall we say, this week. But they were, it was pretty fleeting, the amount of time that I got to spend with them. Had a bit of a pre-NAMM bass hang at the house. Invited a few of the cats over. Tim Landers was here, Steve Bailey, Henrik Linder, bunch of the cats, and Anders Mattisson from Mattisson Basses bought me my new bass. We've been working on this hollow body, new 5-string, high C, single cut, but with way more of an acoustic and organic sound to it. Definitely, like, it is all hollowed out and has sound posts, almost similar to an upright bass. The body is way lighter. And I will, of course, I'll be just playing the instrument way, way more moving forwards, and I'll make dedicated videos about it. And hopefully I will have been able to throw up images on the screen for you to get a sneak peek at it if you were not at NAMM and didn't see me playing it. And also, of course, the new RKM is done. It's finished. It is ready to roll. We haven't decided on the exact launch date or when the link for orders are going to go live. But I snuck into the show. Well, not snuck in. I was allowed to be there, but I got in because of the badge I had. I was able to get in before the show floor opened to sort of the general population, and it's significantly quieter. And the RKM booth was sort of way in the back of the hall with nobody really doing anything around it. So both days, Thursday and Friday, I got to sneak in and get some practice done with the new RKM, with the new 5-string. Worked on the setup a little bit to suit me in terms of string height, but everything else we worked on, and between the prototype and the new model, is done. It was all done between going to Monterrey back in November and arriving here at the NAMM show this week. So that was super exciting. Yesterday I played it on the booth around noon as to, kind of announce it, and a bunch of people took some videos. Maybe that's floating around social media, who knows. I am not a part of social media, so I don't actually know, but there were definitely no shortage of people with cell phones taking video, so I'm sure some of it's out there somewhere. I love the color. We got this much darker blue. Again, I should be flashing photos of it up on the screen as we speak, maybe some little videos here and there. But it is just incredibly exciting. And right next to the RKM booth, in fact, the Matheson was sharing a booth with EBS, and then the RKM booth was like 20 feet away. And right next to the RKM booth was Abassi Concepts, my buddy Tosin Abassi's company. Tosin Abassi, guitarist of Animals as leaders, and he had a bass sitting up there. I was like, holy shit, man, you finally did it. You got basses out there, and we chatted for a little while, and I got to play the bass actually as well, which was really fun. Super aggressive fan fret, like I think 34 to 37 inch scale or something. Insane kind of specs when he was going through the pickups and all this stuff for me. So I think I'm going to get my hands on one of those to make a video, do a shootout. It's another headless instrument now. As you'll have seen from the photos of the Matheson, it's a headless bass. In one of my longest conversations with Anders about the instrument, I said, I don't really think I can play a headless bass. And it probably needs to be, active electronics, just because that's kind of my thing. And he shows up to my house with a headless bass and passive electronics. And boy, was he so right. Like, at least in the phone call, I said, hey, that's what I imagine the bass to be, but I leave it up to you based on your vastly, way bigger experience in these matters in terms of getting the sound I want. And at the end of the day, the sound is the thing that's most important. And of course, how it feels. It felt beautiful. The few minutes I've had to play it. Pretty amusing that now I'm playing a headless bass, and then Strandberg sample. What are they called? Strandberg. We're talking about throwing a bass my way to get some feedback on it. That's another headless thing. Tosin was saying, I'd love to hear your feedback on this. That's a headless thing. So maybe we have a headless bass shootout coming at some point in the not too distant future. More than anything else, it'd just be super fun to play a bunch of different instruments in one video. One thing I was really blown away by and was totally unexpected. I didn't even really know it existed. I'd sort of heard like maybe there were some guitars, but I didn't know it was basses. Of course it would be basses, because it's Darryl Jones, the Munch. Darryl Jones, who I knew initially from Steps Ahead, live in Tokyo 1986, but of course Sting, Bring on the Night, that movie, that whole tour, that album. And of course, more famously now for 2 decades, maybe 3. Damn, I got to figure out how long he's been in the band. I'd love to know, actually. Darryl Jones has been in the Rolling Stones. Rolling Stones, we're going to check. Band members, got to go to the wiki page. Band members, touring band. Let's see, where's Darryl? Come on. Mick Taylor, no. Charlie Watts, Bill Wyman, new. Ronnie Wood. Okay, Rolling Stones, band members, touring musicians. I guess that was right. 94. So it is 31 years. Wow. Incredible. He's been in the Rolling Stones for 31 years, but Darryl Jones now has a company called, Jones Basses, Darryl Jones Basses, and they're awesome. Really, really fun. They do kind of a P bass, a J bass, and the one I was most interested in, the one I played on the booth and sat there with Darryl talking for a little while, was their take on a Mustang, and it felt good. And a friend of mine bought the one I was playing. He texted me, he said, "Yeah, man, what do you think about those basses?" I think I told him to go over there and check them out. Maybe he hadn't seen them or heard that they were going to be there. And what felt like 20 seconds later, he was like, "Man, I think I might buy one of those. Let me get clearance from the wife, and let me get one of those Mustangs." And man, I'm really happy for him that he did. I hope I get to play one again. I talked to Darryl. That's another really fun thing that is potentially going to happen in the not too distant future. We are going to hang out, and because we don't know each other, we only met quite recently when I was playing with Mike Stern at the end of last year in LA with Dennis Chambers, and Darryl came down to the gig and was just such a sweetheart, and it was one of my biggest heroes. I think he was the only guy out of the Steps Ahead 1986 and the Brecker Brothers 1992 in Barcelona, that the two reasons I moved to America, that was the only guy I hadn't met before out of all of those musicians. So that was fantastic, and he was super cool, and we said then, let's hang out. And then I saw him again at NAMM, and we're like, definitely we're going to hang out once the chaos of NAMM dies down and once everyone's in town. So maybe that will end up being a podcast interview. I really want to talk to him about the instruments, where that came from, what his thought process is going into it. And we had a little chat, and he was talking about how he does play them on the gig with the Stones, and how he's playing some short scale stuff on Satisfaction, on like 5 or 6 tunes on the gig. So that was really interesting, how someone who's so known for like a regular scale bass actually, gets some punch out of a short scale, like a Mustang copy. So that, just really good, fun things, really interesting things to come. I think I'm starting to very much appreciate the position I find myself in of, I guess the crude way to put it is access, right? Like I know some of these people now, so yes, I have access to them. I mean, for the most part, they're just really, really nice people, and a lot of them have become my friends over the years. So it feels less like access and more like, oh, we're just going to have this conversation and share it with people. But yeah, definitely one of the things I'm very grateful for is having these last, like almost 3 decades. Well, it is 3 decades of playing bass, more than 3 decades of playing bass, and 27 years almost of living out here in the US and doing what I set out to do, and how that has come around to some very fulfilling relationships and collaborations. And I've got this word access in my head, but it's the wrong word. I got to think about that a little more and fully form that thought. But definitely, very grateful for the place I find myself in right now, and to be able to share that with all of you guys. Some of the stuff from last week on the SBL shoot is still haunting me, slowly managing to get over it and let it go, and trust in the fact that they are much better editors than I am being in front of the camera, and that they have all the power. They could make me look like maybe look like I'm in kindergarten, or they could, what I trust they're going to do is be honest about it and show that it did actually work out in the end on a couple of these things. So very interested to see how that turns out. I'll share, I guess, I don't even know if I'll know when those things are coming out, but as soon as they do, I'll share them with you. The Mystery to Me reissue is going absolutely from strength to strength. I've never had a launch of an album, at least on Spotify, by Spotify's metrics, like this before. So that is really beautiful to see. I had very random people coming up to me at the NAMM show saying, hey man, I checked out the new issue of Mystery to Me, and asking questions about, hey, how did you do it? Why did you re-record the bass? How did you re-record the bass? Some people asking, hey, it would be really interesting to have you sort of play the album like on a podcast like this. Maybe that'll be next week's episode, where I play through the album and then talk about which effects I used on each bass part, to kind of update the bass parts on that album from 20 years ago. Hopefully I remember. Hopefully by listening to it, I'll just know. And I'm pretty sure I remember, but I did make notes, which is always good. Oh, and by the way, I'm selling Daryl Jones short here. I didn't mention the fact that he also played with Miles, and he's on at least 2 records with Miles, and he played on Dream of the Blue Turtles. He played with Clapton, I'm reading here, Ronnie Wood, Ziggy Marley, Neil Young, Joe Cocker, Joan Armour Trading, Philip Bailey, Patti LaBelle. I mean, it's crazy. He's on 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Is that 8 Rolling Stones records alone? Jesus. Yeah. Daryl's had a career that you want to like really dig into and ask questions about. And I'm fascinated by it. I've always been fascinated by his playing. It'd be great to talk about his career. So yeah, definitely want to try and make that work in terms of a podcast interview. And get in the comments if there's someone you think that you want to hear me sit down and talk to. That is interesting. I want to hear you guys say, hey, and maybe it's someone I haven't thought about. There's one person who I do not have, shall we say, access to yet. Anyway, I don't know them, and they are fellow Brit and someone I hadn't seen play live before. I hadn't seen Tool play before. And because Justin Chancellor was getting a Lifetime Achievement Award a couple of nights ago here in LA, there was a big bass magazine award show. Patitucci was getting one, Justin Chancellor, a bunch of people. And Tool, the rest of the band, surprised Justin, or at least surprised us, and played live with him, like 3 or 4 tunes. And it was great hearing him play with Danny Carey and Steve Bailey and Victor Wooten. You kind of got that raw, there's a lot of bass, you can hear the bass. And I was like, so now it'll be really different with the band. It won't be so much that. And then it was like amazing to hear how much of a component the live show, how much of a component the bass is, and the creativity he has with pedals and with sounds, how huge a component of the live show that is. Really highlighted by the fact that at one point the guitar just cut out. Like there was some issue with a cable or something happened, and sort of in the middle of a guitar feature as well. So it was literally just Danny and Justin playing. And my buddy and I turned to each other and were like, holy crap, you hear how big that sounds still? Like they could have gone on for 5 minutes, and I love the guitar player, by the way. I'm by no means slating him by saying this, but you could have gone on without a guitar player, no problem. Like that is how big Justin Chancellor's sound is. I am sure I'm preaching to the choir at this point, and everyone's going, yeah, duh. We all know Tool. We've been to 19 shows or whatever. We've been listening to every record ever. I've heard Schism, and I've heard a few of the tunes before, of course. They're a big band. But I'm by no means like the biggest Tool fan, nor do I know much about the music. I have always been curious about Justin Chancellor's sound. Whenever I've heard them, I've been like, that is someone who's really interesting to listen to, and I think would be equally, if not more so, interesting to talk to about his process. And he plays wall basses. Of course, I used to play them for the longest time. I did a bit of digging about his gear online, and if the internet is to be believed, we actually started playing wall basses around the exact same time, like in the mid to late 90s, maybe 96, 97, something like that. So there's a chance that we both had instruments made by Pete the Fish, by the same person who is sadly no longer with us, but we had basses of that era. So that would be super interesting as well, because I have just great memories about those instruments. Something I often lament selling. I actually saw Marcus's guy, the cat that brokered the deal for me to sell the bass to Marcus. I saw him; he was at the show, and I see him around from time to time. And every time I see him, I'm like, damn, I love to see him, of course, but I also have that memory of getting rid of the wall basses through him to Marcus. So yeah, I don't even think Marcus has them anymore. So even if I wanted to, I think they'd be difficult to track down and vastly more expensive than I paid, or than I sold them for, and definitely more than I paid for them almost 30 years ago. Those were like my very first serious instruments, custom instruments, handmade, made really personally for me, hooked up by Lawrence Cottle, of course, because he played them, and he took me to High Wycombe to meet Pete and the guys. Yeah, it'd be really interesting. That would be a very interesting future collaboration way down the line, to have one of those instruments again in the arsenal, in the collection. It'd be really, really nice. I know I don't have the money to do it, nor the need to do it right now. And they're probably so backed up with orders that it wouldn't even be possible. So that's definitely a maybe 10 years from now kind of thing. But it would be interesting. And if I do get to meet Justin and talk to him, I believe he lives here in LA. I know he lives here in LA because he was talking about the fires and how they got lucky and they didn't get their houses burned down. But it would be nice to see him and talk to him, and maybe get to play a few of his instruments, see how closely they resembled mine, or at least my memory of those instruments. So, all right, that's it. It's I got so much work to do to get ready for this Patitucci interview in a couple of days. Again, get in the comments, A, about what you want me to ask John, and B, about who you would like me to sit down with. And don't feel like it's got to be the jazz guy or fusion guy. So like really anyone, Also doesn't have to be a bass player. Like, I'm crazy enough to try and get access. I keep coming back to this fucking access word. I'm crazy enough to try and find access to anyone who's interesting to talk to about music. So get at me in the comments, and let's see what we can make happen in 2025 in terms of interviews. I love doing them. We should definitely do more. Don't forget, Time and Sound merch. I was wearing this stuff today just to test it out, and I'm wearing like the hat and the hoodie and all this stuff. My wife's looking at me like, hey, what kind of nerd are you walking around wearing your own merch? It's like, hey, I'm testing it out. I wouldn't necessarily leave the house from head to toe in Time and Sound merch, but I do dig the hat. As you may well know, I like a hat, even though I still have a head of hair just. But it's all linked below. Let me know what you think. Let me know actually what other products you would like to see. For me, it's about reminding myself like, oh, Time and Sound is the most important thing there is. And the more we can spread that word, the better. So is there another object or item that you use on a really regular basis? Is it as corny as a phone case or something? Or is there something I haven't thought of that would be good to put in the merch store? On that bombshell note, whatever, I'm going to say goodbye. Bid you a good week. Happy practicing. There should be like at least 1 million comments after this video, just with suggestions of stuff. So get at it down below. I'll catch you all on the next one.